Hey y'all, hey, welcome back to Truth, Trust, and Trajectory with your girl Shakim B. Today I am going to be having another guest on my podcast. I'm going to invite her up and she can introduce herself to you guys. Hey
Hello.
Julia,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. Can you just introduce yourself to the audience?
Absolutely. My name is Julia Porter. I'm in Ontario, Canada, and I'm a transformational performance coach.
Wow, that's exciting. So what does a transformational performance coach do? Like what does that entail?
Yeah, I work primarily with real estate agents. Really what it's about is redefining what rich looks like for you. A lot of the time we spend so much time looking at everyone else's business, everyone else's life, and a lot of times it's not even true or authentic or real. So we really take a look at what does success look like to you? What is rich defined? What do you define as rich? Is it actual monetary value? Is it having family vacations? Is it making it to all of your kids' sporting events? And really, what we begin to do is to build a business that reflects those goals, and just having that focus and staying in your lane and knowing what you need to do and to be in alignment with those goals.
Gotcha. Can you share a little bit about your journey? What led you to become a transformational performance coach?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I had a really bad relationship in my early 20s. And coming out of that relationship, I kind of had one of these moments where I knew I needed to make a change in my life. I knew I wanted to actually do something that was fulfilling to my life, because the job I was doing was just paying the bills. It wasn't actually giving back to my soul and what actually fulfilled me. So I went to school for addictions counseling because I really wanted to learn how to help people break free from their vices and really build a life that is fulfilling for them, and to build those strategies and systems to just to be successful. I ended up in developmental services at a job that I absolutely loved, and I built a lot of personal plans and goals and strategies for the people that I supported there. My husband was in real estate, and so I kind of had um, this point where I had to figure out where I wanted to go. I had two kids. I was on mat leave. I wanted to return to my job in developmental services, but it logistic wise, it didn't make sense. And I actually applied for management positions several times within this job, and I didn't get it. It was a lot of politics, and I knew that I would be really good at it, but it was one of those things where I guess it just wasn't what God had planned for me at the time. So I ended up joining my husband Donald in real estate, and I started implementing a lot of the skill sets that I already had, my background in addictions, and building plans, success plans, and strategies, and using all of that to kind of put it together for our real estate agent. And that combined with the knowledge I already had with how Donald was running the company and the business. And it was just amazing to see all of the light bulbs go off and all of the aha moments for the agents. And then it just started growing from there.
I love that. So going from a addiction counselor, how did that particular experience influence the way you coach and support real estate agents?
Absolutely. So, a lot of the times in addictions, we talk about the things that are underneath the iceberg, the the stuff that makes you want to escape, and that's the stuff that's holding us back from living the best lives. So, in real estate, we look at what are your goals and where's that bottleneck. Sorry, I was going to drink water. So, when we look at how we can break through that bottleneck and build a systemized strategy and really build your marketing to be in alignment with your goals, then you start to show up as your authentic self. It's not about being fake or doing what everyone else is doing with the trending social medias or whatever else. It's about just being in alignment with who you are and how you can live your life and live at the top of the iceberg, the things that are actually producing the values that you want.
Mhm. So when you talk about bottleneck, like can you just like explain for anyone that might not be
Yeah.
familiar what that is?
A lot of the times, there's a bottleneck into why we're not succeeding. And when we actually sit there and ask the question, like, what is your bottleneck in your business, or what is the bottleneck in your personal life to why you're not achieving your goal? And that could be a bottleneck in your fitness journey, or a bottleneck in your business. A lot of times it's they don't have the right systems in place. So they're going all over the place because they don't know what to do, what the next task should be. So we begin to build a system that, okay, so if this is your bottleneck, how can we navigate through this? We need to build a better system. Or, if it's fitness, it's like, okay, well, then you need to get through those barriers. If it's, a good time, how can you navigate a good time to go to the gym, or however that looks like in your life?
Okay. So is it safe to say like a bottleneck would be kind of like the limitations that a person has in their life?
Absolutely.
Getting to the
Yeah.
bottom. Okay.
Yeah. Limitations, the barriers, a lot of the times they're easy fixes. But when we actually ask ourselves the question, or you're actually forced to think about it,
Mm.
it's surprising to see the barriers we have. Like for some people, excuse me, it's like, okay, I know I need to do follow-ups with all my clients today, but first I need to, you're like looking around the house, I need to clean my kitchen first, and then I need to take a shower, and then I need to do, so then for that person, it's okay. You need to create an environment where you can go into your office and just start working. Stop that procrastination or making excuses,
Mhm.
and just build it. Either you're doing your tidying up the night before, your shower the night before, or whatever. You need to be able to come in and start working so you can get the results that you want.
Got it. What was the biggest lesson you learned while working in developmental services that still impacts your work today?
Oh, that's a great question. I worked with a lot of really, really incredible people. And when I say people, the staff I worked with were great, but actually the people I supported taught me the most valuable lessons. And I think there was one lady I was supporting. She has since passed, but she was like the love of my heart. I absolutely loved her. She was fairly behavioral, so we had lots of fun. But we went to a movie theater, and we went and saw the Aladdin movie when that one came out, the new one, the live version one. She
Yeah.
loves Disney. She loves that. We went in, and she was just like blown away by it. And she was the only one that was cheering and clapping after the songs, and just like living life to the fullest. People are all like looking around like, who's doing that? And I think one of my big aha moments sitting there with her was like, she did not care what anyone else was thinking. And she just, like, this was her moment. She was loving every single moment of it. And she didn't care what people thought, if they were judging her. It was just like, this is awesome. So I think, like, I was just smiling from ear to ear. I think I eventually joined her in clapping. So I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is like, are you worried about what people are going to say about you? Are you worried about being successful or not being successful, and how that looks? Or are you just sitting there in the theater clapping and cheering because you are just amazed at how awesome life is?
Right.
So I think just living life to the fullest, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. You and your husband built a successful real estate business together. What were some of the key strategies you used to make it thrive?
A lot of communication. But being a couple and being in business has its pros and cons for sure. We spent a lot of time together, and he's an extreme extrovert, and I'm an extreme introvert. So we definitely ebb and flow. It works, but we've definitely had some challenges figuring and navigating all of that together. But I think the biggest thing is us just knowing where we're good, and making sure that we're encouraging that other person to flourish in that area.
Mm.
So I'm a lot better at building systems, and doing my due diligence, like double checking, fact checking, all of this stuff. And Donald's just about action. So I think once we figured that out, we were able to really build a business that was in alignment with what we wanted for our family. And then we attracted the team that we wanted, that was also going to be in alignment with that goal. It also worked for them. And we were really picky about who stepped into that field, with us. Like it has to work.
Absolutely. Um, Many entrepreneurs struggle with balancing business and personal life. How have you managed to integrate? Did I just ask you that one? No.
No, balance, yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's
Um,
okay.
how do you manage to integrate your values into your work without sacrificing what truly matters?
Yeah, it's actually really tricky. I think for me, my biggest priority is my family. We have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. A girl, my girl's the oldest one, and then we have the little boy.
Oh,
So, yeah, they're the love of my life alongside my husband. But I think for me, I don't really look at my phone until my kids have had their breakfast. They're all packed for school and they've been at school, they dropped off, and then I kind of look at my tasks for the day.
mhm.
Now, I'm able to do that because the night before, we call this the 90-10 rule. The night before, I set up all of my tasks for the next day.
Mhm.
So my team logs in about 7 a.m. and sorry, they log in about 7 a.m. and they've already been assigned all of their tasks the night before. So as I'm doing my kids' morning routine, we're packing their lunches and getting their snowsuits on and all of that stuff. Work is already happening in our business. And then when I log in around 9 o'clock, I jump in on the tasks that I need to go. So that's, for me, that's my priority. In the evenings, it's kind of the same thing. I pick up my kids from school and I'm very intentional about spending time with them in the evenings and doing all, their homework and whatever else needs to get done. And my team knows that. And it doesn't mean that I neglect. If someone messages and says they need this done, perfect. Let me jump on it. Donald's home. It's perfect. The kids are old enough to take care of themselves. But for the most part, I try to respect that time frame with my kids because that time is so valuable. And that's really what success looks like for me. And what rich is defined as for me in my life is that I want to be able to spend that quality time with the kids.
Mhm.
So it's just about shifting that. It's just a simple text that says, I'll jump on this after the kids go to bed tonight or whatever, right? So that's really where I put those boundaries in place. And that really reflects my values and how I'm operating the business is that I'm prioritizing what's important to me.
I love that. And I would imagine it would make it makes life much more smoother too when you kind of have identified like kind of like the order in which everything goes, right? And then you
Yeah.
kind of prioritize in that way as well.
Yeah. And it requires sacrifice too, right? Like I give
Mhm.
up most of my evenings to make sure that my time is set for the next day. My tasks are set for the next day. But that means that that's still giving me the values that it's important to me to spend time with my kids. So that's all in alignment. It just means that sometimes there's sacrifices that are made along the way.
Exactly. Was it difficult, like in the beginning of your business practice, to kind of like organize everything so that one thing wasn't overlapping the other, like the time with your kids?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a work in progress. I mean, my daughter asked me the other day, she's like, "Mom, what do you like to do for fun?" And I'm like, I'm like
Man,
drawing a blank. I'm like, I don't know. It's been a while because you just know
yeah.
as a mom, you're just constantly giving and doing, and
Mm.
it goes by really fast. But sorry, what was your question again? I got derailed.
No, I was asking, when you first started your,
Yeah.
your business entrepreneurship, was it difficult to kind of like organize things so that maybe work wasn't overlapping with your time with your family and children?
Yeah, absolutely. And Donald, my husband, he's just like the minute he wakes up, he's go mode, and I'm definitely a person that's like, I need to have my coffee first. Like, slow it down. So we've had many conversations about you can't talk to me about this stuff right now. Like, I gotta. This is my time frame.
Yeah.
So it's definitely taken a long time to build that out and to even train my team that I'm doing morning or bedtime routine right now, and it having to constantly reinforce it, but they know everyone knows that, and they
Mhm.
and they respect it, right? It's important.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. What common mindset challenges do you see in real estate agents or entrepreneurs, and how do you help them overcome these hurdles?
A lot of the times, I think there's a big scarcity mindset that
Mhm.
it's almost like commission breath, and your potential clients see that and they sense that when you're, I only want to work with you if you're like going to transact within the next 3 months.
Mm.
And that scarcity mindset is going to cost you a lot of business. So I think a lot of the stuff that I work through with real estate agents is getting rid of that mindset. Instead, be thinking about building a consistent pipeline of leads. Because, people aren't just going to come to you and be like, okay, I want to sell next week or I want to buy next week. And they don't know who you are. They haven't built a relationship with you. It takes time to build that also. When you build a business that attracts your ideal clients that are coming to you because they know what you have is valuable and you're a professional and you've demonstrated and you took the time to build a connection with them, then you build a consistent pipeline of leads. So then there's no scarcity mindset where it's like, I got to hold on to all of this and I got to make sure that this transaction, and then it just becomes about the money and the paycheck and it's not about the client.
Yeah.
In real estate, most of the times buying a house is a huge investment. It's usually the biggest investment. So it needs to be handled with that same level of professionalism and respect for people's investments and their time and their emotions and stress that's all wrapped in with this, and making sure that we're not taking that on and reacting and being triggered and being combative with it, but being able to guide and navigate because we're in control with how we're processing stress and everything else at the same time.
Exactly. What are some tools you would give your clients to make sure that they're not, self-sabotaging in these goals?
So we do a lot of I do a lot of encouraging to do like journaling,
Mhm.
mindfulness and journaling. Sorry. This cold has been awful.
Okay.
My kids have been sick for weeks and they keep bringing it home to me. But we do a lot of mindfulness and journaling and a lot of just showing gratefulness.
Mhm.
And I even do this in my own personal life because I think too often we just get like on this treadmill or like a rat race. You just go, 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 go. And we don't sit back and just name and the wins and are grateful for where we're at and how we got there. And even just something as simple as, the other day I pulled out of the driveway and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's cold. We're in Canada. It's freezing. I get so cold today, but the sunshine was out. So for my kids, I'm like, thank you, God, for the sunshine. It's
Mhm.
beautiful. We need the sun. So it's simple things like that of just taking a moment to be thankful and grateful and being mindful of our surroundings, because otherwise you just go through life so fast and you get in this rut.
Yeah. No, I definitely I think that's an excellent that's not practiced as often as it should be. Myself
Mhm.
included. Try to get into patterns and habits of practicing gratitude and mindfulness, because like there's always a silver lining to every every
There
road.
is.
Some people just can't see it right off the rip.
And
Um,
it takes a bit of work to like train your brain to think that way. Like my mom is naturally a very positive person, but I feel like for the most part, most of us have to like constantly reframe and train our brains to think like about the silver lining or to think in positive, but it does transform how you
mhm.
look at things and how you run your business because you're thinking in a different light.
Oh, for sure. Right. And again, the practicing part, and I feel like I don't know if you agree with this, but the more you practice the mindfulness and gratitude, the more it'll start to show up for you, and it'll become more evident. So flow
Absolutely.
a little bit more with ease.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, for sure.
you talk about helping people redefine what it means to be rich. How do you personally define success and wealth? And I know you kind of covered this already, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So my kind of my big catalyst moment was when was on mat leave and then I have a COVID baby 2020.
Mhm.
So I was thankful that I was able to be off a lot with him during that time.
Right.
But when I came back and looked at my job, sorry, when I came back and looked at my job, a lot of had changed and my shift had really been moved around. And I thought, my goodness, like I'm hardly going to spend any time with the kids. And I wasn't making the money that I wanted to make. So I'm like, really with daycare, I'm not really coming up with a lot of money. And when I get really down to the bottom of the iceberg, as we talked about earlier, when I get really down to my why, it was really tricky for me to be home when my kids were sick.
Mm.
And as I mentioned, my kids are always sick. They're in school and we're constantly battling this. And the reason was I was supporting people with developmental disabilities. And when I asked my manager, I'm like, what happens if I need to call in sick? Because I was one-on-one supports.
Mm.
I said, well, we'll try to find someone to cover your shift. But if we can't, then unfortunately that person just doesn't get supports. Wow, that's awful. I felt so bad. And it was so tricky to get shifts covered or my mom to come. And I thought, this isn't in alignment with what I want. I want to be the mom that's home with my kids when they're sick, and I want to do the snuggles and I want to binge watch Disney movies and do all that stuff. But I couldn't do that in my job. So I joined Donald in real estate. And so I'm always reminded of that when my kids are sick and we're all pulling our hair out and there's snot and everything all over the place. This is my rich. This is my rich. But it really is. It's that being able to carve out that time. I can move things around in my schedule and I can be there and be present with my kids when they need me the most. And so that's really what's defined for me is my family, and that's where my priorities lie.
I love that. Can you share an example of a client who experienced a major transformation after working with you?
Yeah, absolutely. If I can talk for 2 minutes.
Take your time.
Oh my goodness, it's so dry too. I don't know, like, what's the temperature like where you are, but it's like snow outside and dry and
Yeah, it's not overly dry, but it's there. It's
yeah,
enough for me to stay in the house. Like I'm inside.
yeah,
Like where you at in
full-blown
the
hermit mode.
house?
Yeah, I get that. That's hibernate for sure.
Yeah.
I have I worked with an amazing agent. She's actually on our team, and I'm going to brag about her for a little bit because she's just incredible. She last year she really went through a season of just really feeling discouraged with the real estate industry. She still did really well and did a lot of deals, but she told me she's like everything feels the same, and I just don't feel that fulfillment, and I don't know if this is what I want to be doing anymore. So we just kind of dived a little bit deeper into why she got into real estate. And a lot of times when I ask this question, real estate agents always say, "Oh, I like helping people," which is a great answer, but I actually like to go a little bit deeper into that. What do you like about helping people? Because
Mm.
there's more to it. So she came from a background of working also in actually disabilities, and her son has autism. So when we looked at how we could make this work for her business and what was fulfilling to her, we built a whole marketing strategy based on her helping families find accessible homes. So
Mm.
she's completely niched down to working with families. She has like contractors that she works with that can make accessible, bathrooms or accessible main floor bedrooms, whatever the accommodations need, sensory rooms, communities that are inclusive. All of these things like on route for transportation, all the stuff that's really important and it's really hard for a lot of families to find. So she's had like a whole new meaning to her business that's also so fulfilling to her is that she can just focus on helping these families with the educational background that she has and the personal experience. She's really showing up as such an expert in her field. And it's just been incredible to see just how she's redefined success for herself, knowing that it's more than just helping people, it's helping a specific, group of people and all of the value and experience that she's bringing to the field. It's been truly inspiring to see.
That's awesome. And I think that speaks to a lot to when you had said that she's completely niched down. A lot of people, I think, have a difficult time finding their niche, right? Because they've
Yeah.
never really truly defined their why.
Yeah.
Sometimes we look at things from like the surface level and we're like, yeah, like we'll just say anything like, oh, I just want to make the money, but why do you want to make the money? Why do you want
Exactly.
to? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes back to like my why as well. Like why are we doing this? Why are we working so hard and doing all these things? Well, it's because we're able to take spontaneous family days and we're going to Florida next month and we're able to just take our business, our laptops with us and do business on the road. Like we're just able to do those things because we know what we want from life.
Exactly. What are some of the most overlooked factors that contribute to meaningful success in business and life?
I think a lot of people um, think that they know what their business plan is, and they
Mhm.
think that they know, like they maybe are setting New Year resolutions. And a lot of times, I think it's like 80% of us drop our New Year resolutions by like week 6 or something like that.
Right.
But I think a lot of the times, the first thing I do with a new agent on our team is really go through a business plan and create a strategy for reaching your goals. It's not just about setting the goal, it's about doing it all in bite-sized chunks to
Mm.
actually reach it. Because if
Yes.
we don't have any accountability and if we don't have an actual strategy, then we're not gonna get there. It's just gonna be a New Year's resolution that we just throw out into the universe and expect it to happen. You actually got to do the work to build it out so that you're setting yourself up for success.
I love that. For listeners who feel stuck in their careers or businesses, what is the first step that they should take to create a real change?
I think the first thing, depending on where you're at in your business, and again, we kind of talked about the bottleneck, but
Mm.
if your bottleneck is you're doing everything and you're doing it at like a low subpar level, then you need to look at maybe outsourcing some of that. That could be a virtual assistant, a marketing manager, social media manager, something like that. If it's consuming your time, you got to look at automate, delegate, eliminate. And one of those three things are going to offload your time because time is, as an entrepreneur, time is so valuable. So
Yes.
when you can figure out, where your bottleneck is in your business, and then you can start problem solving that. I mean, my daughter just the other day, she comes inside, she's been sick, comes inside, her snow stuff all on, and she's like all a mess. And she's crying because I asked her to bring her toys in, which seems reasonable, but she was
Mm.
crying about it. And so I said to her, I'm like, "What's going on?" She says, "I didn't want to come in this door. I wanted to go in the side door." I'm like, "Okay, well then go out the door and go around to the side door." Well, she's like, "Well, but my gloves are already off and my hands are cold." So I'm like, "Okay, how can I help you right now?" I literally picked her up and brought her to the side door. So that's the door she wanted to go through. So I think the lesson in that is that we can't problem solve for people.
Mm.
What we want to do is ask those right questions. How can I help you? How can we get to the end result? And then you create a strategy and a plan to get there. Because otherwise, if I just kept offering suggestions or got frustrated with, she's highly emotional and she's sick and everything else, then instead I'm like, okay, how can I help you? What can we do? How can we get you to where you need to be? And when it was, we figured it out, everyone's happy, we're all good. But she had to
Yeah.
kind of get there on her own. So that's really what I challenge people to do is you got to create an actual business plan, an actual strategy, goals, and they have to be all in alignment to get you there. So, we have an income property and we want to make sure that that's, paid off so it generates more revenue. So our 3-year plan is for that to be generating a certain amount of revenue. So every year we know how much we need to pay off on that. So you got to kind of work backwards from that big 3-year vision and figure out what you need to do each year, each quarter, so that you can get that big goal that, where you want to be, that
Yeah.
vision.
Basically, set your plans up and kind of like small attainable goals to
Hmm.
reach the objective.
Yeah. And they lead to your big vision. A lot of times we talk about a 5-year vision, but that seems so far away. But a 3-year vision, you can easily create actionable steps to get there.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you can go back to the moment you decided to pivot into coaching, what advice would you have given yourself?
I think just go for it. Like I'm an introvert, and I think a lot of the times I'm intimidated. I don't know if it's all introverts or just me, but I think I'm all intimidated that the extroverts are always like the loud, noisy ones that are like, taking the front stage.
They
And I'm
are.
always like, okay, well, I don't think I know enough or I'm confident enough or whatever. Just
Mm.
that self doubt.
Yeah.
But and I think like not feeling like I have to compete with an extrovert and knowing that I have a lot of value and skill sets on my own, but I
Mhm.
just do it quieter. And
Yeah.
I'm not bragging and I'm not doing all that. I'm just kind of doing my thing, right?
Yeah.
But I think just realizing that doesn't mean I'm not good at it. It just means that I'm just not as noisy as the extroverts are.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. Well, with the imposter syndrome, it's funny because I was actually talking about that sometime last week with that. And I think, a lot of the times, because I don't know, like, if I'm actually an introvert or if I just believe that I am.
Yeah.
Still trying to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
But that imposter syndrome always does find a way to show up, right? And this is like
Yeah.
the reason why I feel like I'm a lot slower to like reach my goals, because now at this point I've determined what it is that I want to do and what I'm supposed to be doing. But then there's always like that little voice in the back of my head that's like, no one's gonna listen to you. You can't
Yeah.
do it. You can't
Yeah.
articulate yourself
Yep.
properly. You're gonna stumble and they're gonna laugh. They're all gonna laugh at you.
Yeah.
Like,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah. Those all those limiting beliefs
Mhm.
and they like get into our heads and they mess us up.
Oh yeah.
And I literally tell like the people that I work with, like you write those limiting beliefs down. And for every limiting belief that you write down like why you're gonna overcome that. And like how like, no, I'm gonna combat this with everyone's gonna laugh at me, or I'm gonna be able to really effectively change and touch someone's life, like changing that framework in your brain.
Exactly. Okay. You work with real estate agents on aligning their goals with their values. Can you guide us through an exercise or a question they should ask themselves to uncover their true motivations?
Yeah, I think in our business plan, it really breaks it down for them. So in every section, it talks about their personal life, their financial life, giving back to your community, or something bigger than yourself. It can't just be about you gain, gather, and keep. It has to be what you're contributing back to society. And so we go through a full, it's like 30 pages, a full workbook that is designed to really help evaluate every aspect of your life and how you're showing up for your family, how you're showing up for your friends, where the gaps are. You actually even rate yourself on, you showing up consistently or you're showing up, not where you want to be,
Yeah.
and really bridging those gaps to figure out, okay, well, how can I get to where I want to be, get to the five that rather than I'm at the one, how do I get to the five? So I think that's the biggest thing for me is getting people to go through that whole business plan because it takes you through all of the emotions, all of the feels of how you're showing up in every aspect of your life. And it's hard to do. If people do it properly, it's hard to do. It's a lot of
Oh, yeah.
self-reflection.
Oh, yeah. It definitely is. And I think just to speak more on that with, that self reflection, I think the hardest part is first like devising the questions, right? And then once you start devising the questions and actually finding like the truthful answer, like within. So how do you kind of
Yeah.
like guide people to either formatting the questions or finding like their honest truth to the questions?
Yeah, honestly, it's all in just powerful questions. Like, I just had a call with someone else and she was going she was all over the place, and I said, "What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? In 3 years?" And just sitting back and think, "Okay, let's build this out. How is this going to look, and how are you going to get there?" It's just all in asking the right questions and listening, act like the active listening piece, right? Because for the agent I talked about earlier, she wasn't feeling fulfilled. Like, what is fulfilling to you? Well, I loved working with people with disabilities. Okay, well then how can we connect working with families with disabilities, how can we connect that with real estate and make like a really cool, thriving, and self-fulfilling business plan? Like, that is incredible. It's amazing to see, the communities that she's broken into because of that.
Yeah. Entrepreneurship comes with a lot of emotional highs and lows. Can you share a time where you faced a major setback, how it affected you emotionally, and what did you do to move forward?
Yeah, it definitely lots of highs and lows. And for me, it's just like I hit that like wall and it's like emotional breakdown. But and that's usually when Donald, my husband, is like, "Okay, that it's time to like stop and reload." I think the the hardest thing for me is I was wanted to create a better system for my team. So I bought into this program that was like promising all these things. But when I actually started doing it, it was a lot of like the work was on my end to build it all. I didn't have the time or the resources to like figure out this whole platform and then build this whole system. So it just kept getting like delayed. It was quite expensive. It was like $3,000 a month or something. Like it was ridiculous. But I like had all these promises. And it was really hard for me because after a couple of months of me trying to figure this out, and it's stressing me out and it's overwhelming me, and I'm like thinking of all the money we've lost each month. Donald's like, I think we need to cut this. And this is what we call loss aversion. And it's when you're invested in something, but because it's not working and you've already spent money, you just keep going on it because you're like, I've already spent this much money on it. This needs to work. Donald's really good at loss aversion and just being like, you got to cut your losses. Like, this is a time we got to stop it. And so he was like, this is not working. Like, you don't have the time to build this. You don't know how to do it. And it's just like, it's a mess and it's costing us money. So we cut that program. And I was like, instant relief. I was like, oh my goodness. It sucks that we lost all of that money, but it definitely wasn't a right fit for our business or for what I had the capabilities of doing. So I think that was really key, was just being like having that loss aversion and knowing, okay, you tried something, it didn't work, and you got to know when to like cut it and cut your losses and just be like, okay, I'm done. And we see that happen in people's relationships even. You've been with them for 3 years and I know it's a bad relationship, but I've already, 3 years of getting to know this person and I don't want to start from scratch or start new. So it's like all this fear takes over and we stay and we do the things that we know are not good for us just because we don't want to lose it. Yeah. But when we let go, there's so much more that's waiting for us on that other side. And it's so much more fulfillment that's there. And it's not worth it just to hang on to it for the sake of hanging on to it.
Exactly. And like, I think cutting losses is like a difficult thing for people in general. Like, that's one thing that I've always like had a problem with, right? Even though I know I've been like, even with my previous job I was telling you about earlier, my 9 to 5, it didn't align with me. Like, it literally went against everything that I morally stood for. Like, I consider myself more on the side of humanitarian, and so like pest control, it's like I'm literally being destructive to the environment, right? And I'm killing creatures and it doesn't feel good. And I have people, they're like, there are ants in my yard, and I'm like, well, where would you like them to be? Because they're outside. I don't know.
Where did they go?
Yeah, like they just kill them. I always felt horrible. And knowing this, I would complain every single day that I had to go into work. I would complain and I hated it. Like, and eventually I'm like, I don't want this job. I'm telling myself this, putting this out into the universe, until one day God was like, you know what? We're going to just separate you from this. And you go and do what you're supposed to be doing. I'm like, what am I supposed to be doing? He's like, figure it out.
Yeah.
Whole time out.
Exactly. Sometimes you need that push, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If your younger self could see you now, what do you think she would most be surprised by?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would be completely surprised at where I am. I mean, my beautiful family and my kids, and just career-wise too, just taking the leap of faith, and thinking that I wanted to do management in one role, and thinking, getting turned down time and time again, and being so discouraged by that. But then just, back of my mind knowing, okay, this is just not God's plan. God's got something else planned for you. And it's so much more, I'm so much more fulfilled and so much better where I'm at now. So just seeing God's plan throughout my life, it's been incredible.
Yeah. I love that. That speaks to something I once heard. Rejection is a gift, right? Or it's, protection. So times that we thought that we were denied something because we wanted it, that was actually a blessing in some sort of way.
Absolutely. It's like you said, like even in your job, it, to get pushed out of it, and you're like, okay, well now you're forced to do what you really want to do, and take that moment to, like, your slate's clean. So what do you want to do? Where do you want to be? Where do you want to go?
Yeah,
it's exciting.
Exactly. Kind of.
And scary. Yeah.
It's a little, but once you
Yeah.
get past that fear, and
Yeah.
going from fear, I think, to faith, belief, and
Yeah.
trust is a very, very difficult thing. Like, it
Yeah.
requires like constant reprogramming of the nervous system,
Yeah.
and also not overthinking of things, because at this point, like, I think when you kind of like you succumb to what you perceive as failure, right? Then you can quiet down, and the things that are supposed to be in alignment with you could start hearing that frequency, right? And then kind of like jump frequencies.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's what I feel about that. What is one powerful question we should all be asking ourselves daily to stay aligned with our purpose?
I think it just comes down to like why the reason of why. Like why are you doing what you're doing, and is it reaching your bigger goal? So I mean, my husband and I, we had an office for a long time for our team, and we paid tons of money on this lease, tons of money in furniture, everything else. And then when we really looked at it, we're like, this isn't, we don't even want to go to an office. We have a beautiful home office. Like, we're working together. Why are we literally packing up to go together to another location just for everybody else? Right. So I think when you really sit back and you look at why are you doing what you're doing, and is it in alignment with your bigger goal, your 3-year vision, then you really start to see like, okay, well, how can I adjust? And we got rid of the office. We built, our home office up, and it's been so much better. A lot of times I'm doing like meetings in my pajamas. It's fantastic.
That's the
And
life.
speaking from, yeah, the introverts will all understand this.
Yes.
It's super, yes, super fulfilling. Um, so it's you know what, it's like, yeah, ask yourself the why, and make sure that you're in alignment with that bigger goal. And if you're not, then how can you start creating a pattern, a system that's going to get you there? It doesn't happen overnight. Like, we had, a 3-year lease on that. We're not going to just cut it because we're like, okay, this isn't working, we'll cut it. We waited till all the lease was over. We had a plan. We knew how this was going to happen. So it doesn't just happen overnight. It's taking you years and lots of decisions that you've made to get you with where you're at. Now, if you got to get back to where your goal is, it's also going to take time. You got to be strategic. It's got to make sense. You can't just, leave your family, or, do whatever impulsive, but you have to be able to do it strategically and know what your bigger goal is.
Exactly. And then just if you could, how would a person go about setting up a plan? Like, if they've never had any organization skills, or they're brand new to like
Yeah.
organizing, especially around their what maybe it's a smaller big goal, whatever it is. What are some steps or tools that you would give someone to creating first?
Yeah.
Maybe a 3-year plan, and then make those goals happen.
Sorry. Right off the bat, there's an app that's called Todoist, like to do. It's like short for list, but it's like, so Todoist. And it's I'll show you. I use this all of the time. I just like jot it down. I don't know if you can see it. It's like that guy there, a little red one with the arrow. That guy.
Okay.
Todoist.
Let me.
Um,
Yeah, I'm about
and
to. Yeah.
I'll add it.
I was
I'll add it
actually
in here. It is fantastic. It's just like, you could move things into different sections. It's on your phone. It's really mobile friendly. So as things come into my mind of stuff I know how to do, I like just throw it into my phone, because a lot of times our minds get so busy and so chaotic. That's what causes a lot of stress. We have too much on our minds. So I dump it all into this app. And then, like I said before, in the evenings when I can like organize my day, I go through that list and like, okay, what can I assign tasks and what I need to do, move it around. And I think there's like a really great free version on there too.
Yeah. Yeah, I just found
But
it.
I use that one all the time. Sorry for this cough. Even on
No,
Google, on Google Spaces. So for my team, I've done a lot of just, you can have assigned tasks on Google Spaces in there. Super convenient. I've also built Airtable. It's a little bit more advanced, but it is absolutely amazing. It has automations. I can set recurring tasks. So like monthly reminders, you can put all of that stuff in there. It was a little bit more to build out, but it definitely is like next level organization. I'm super happy with it. And Donald's like, this all stresses me out. I'm like, this is amazing. So it depends. But I would say for someone that's just starting out, just start dumping your task into Todoist, and just start be able to look at your calendar the night before, plan out your day, plan out your week. Then you're not, starting your day not knowing what's on your calendar, not knowing what needs to get done. You kind of prioritize, put yourself at the top of the list that needs to get done right away, and then work your way down. And sometimes it's the task we least like doing that needs to get done right away. Get that off, and then you don't have to worry about it and not feel that pressure of it hanging over your head all the time.
Exactly. That was thank you for that. It's called Todoist.
Yeah.
An app on if you have an iPhone or other. Fast forward 5 years, where do you see yourself, and how do you hope your coaching has transformed the lives of those with whom you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do think because I'm a full wraparound, we definitely want to upsize our house eventually. We have a pretty small little, bungalow, but it does the trick right now. We want to upsize our house in a couple of years. We want to be at the spot where we can have our business and travel and be able to take our business wherever we go. I would like to see, just my clients thriving and just crushing the industry really with a customized plan. Like it's not about doing what everyone else is doing. In fact, in marketing, most of the times, if you're doing what everyone else is doing, you're getting lost in all of the marketing noise. So we actually encourage our clients to think outside the box and think of something different. It's going to be in alignment with who you are as a person. And then that marketing is just going to make so much more difference, much more of an impact, because you're not just doing what everyone else is doing. So that's really what I'm about, is just having people really look into themselves, self-evaluate what makes you unique, what are the gifts that God has given you, and build an aligned strategy to match that.
I love that. So, okay, real quickly, when you talk about the gifts that God has given you, how do you feel about that being the premises of a person's purpose?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone is just so unique and so different. And I think social media has really ruined this for a lot of people, because we just look at everyone's social media platforms and we think that their lives are a certain way, and in reality it's really not. So I think it's distorted even for moms, especially. It's like, okay, well, this mom's doing this park and doing, gymnastics classes, swimming class. And I have this all the time for myself too, where I'm looking at like, oh, should I be doing more with my kids? Like, am I not doing enough stuff? So I think like being able to focus and know, like, my gifts are, I love spending time with my kids. I love story times on the couch. And we may not be doing gymnastics and sports every single night, but for me, it's important to build that foundation with my kids and to be, at home, doing the things that are important to them, playtime, reducing the screen time, all of that stuff. And those are my gifts. And that shines through in our family.
I love that. And being a nurturer, I think as a mother, will always be way more impactful to children than like having them in every single sport and all of the things, right? Because and I'm not saying it's not beneficial. I don't know if I told you, I have 7, so I have 2 daughters who are the youngest, and then 5 boys. And almost all of my boys played sports, so they were in all of the sports. And my oldest daughter now, she plays football and she does basketball. But the baby girl, she does nothing. She's into like hair and makeup, like all of the girly things, the tantrums, the attitude. Like she's so with that. And and the thing that I most notice with her is, because I'm naturally like a nurturer, intuitive person. So she takes after me. She's my polar opposite. She's a
Yeah.
Virgo, I'm Pisces.
Yeah.
And so like the bond that we have compared to the bond with the boys is so different, because she values cuddling in bed and watching TV
Yeah.
together, doing things. Whereas the boys, and even my oldest daughter, because she thinks she's one of the boys, they're all, oh, we're gonna go play sports and do man
Right.
stuff, Mom, get out of here. So there it's
Yeah.
you can see the difference in how they are emotionally, and I
Right.
worry about that. Is that going to transfer over into the adult lives? And 9 times out of 10 it will.
Yep.
But
And that's the thing. We're all just doing the best we can with what we have, right? And we're just, I mean, our kids are all going to walk away with baggage and just hope that ours is going to be a carry on,
yeah,
right?
thanks. Yes. um, if you had to summarize your philosophy on life and success in one sentence, what would that be?
I think it really comes down to being authentic and genuine and knowing like what we have is not ours. Like all the glory goes to God for where we're at, and God has made us and designed us and created us, and there's something bigger than us, and giving back and being, and that does not a one thing. I feel like there's like three things there that I just said, but
No, that's great.
ultimately, being authentic, being true to who you are is the best advice that I can give, because wherever you are in life, whether it's business or family or mom or wherever you are, it's it's so polluted and noisy out there, and everyone's trying to look and be a certain way. What makes you happy, what fulfills you, what is important to you, and do more of that.
Mhm.
Just focus on that.
I love that. And with that, I want to thank you for your time today, times two.
Yes, thank
It
you so
was
much for
definitely,
having me.
of course, it's been a great episode, and I definitely feel like you've contributed so much value to my audience at home. If you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure you leave a like, make sure you subscribe, and lastly, leave a comment in the description box. Tell me what you most took away from this video, and how you're adding value to your life. Also, what ways are you looking to organize your life? Um, what tools are you currently using? And until next time, bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.